and this is our Wednesday afternoon homebuyer seminar. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. with my co-host Patricia Castillo. We get together and talk about buying homes, buying your personal residence. It would be the first time, or upgrading, or buying more homes and things like that. And I was just talking to Kevin, who had been on a call earlier this week we did on real estate investing. So yeah, Kevin, it was amazing to see a young guy who had accomplished so much. On my real estate investing Zoom, we had Antoine Martel, who has a business, Martel Turnkeys. I was just saying, Kevin, I think one of the keys to that, if you notice, he had a team of people, about half more family members. So it tells you that working with other people is important to leveraging your business, and he found a way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Key to getting a little more capital too to grow.
Well, yeah, but if you have success, I think capital follows success. If you find a way for people to make money, there'll be more people with money saying, "Hey, I'll take some of that." I know that's me. Frankly, that's why I had them on. I'm an investor, and I've bought into similar projects. Not in his markets. I prefer other ones, but I like his concept a lot. I might try him out just because it looks to be. He seems to be so successful at it. So, well, good. Well, good. Well, thank you for jumping in on that call as well. And our this program we do every Wednesday is designed to help people get started in the home buying process. And this week, the topic is going to be credit. Do you have the credit you need or the credit you want to get the house that you want? Right. So one of the things that's really important it's interesting how on a lot of the money advice, I think we get kind of backwards. They want you to watch your credit so you can get more credit cards, which is kind of like saying, go to church and we'll give you some free drugs. Kind of seems backwards. Like why are we trying to get people to borrow more money just because they have a better credit score? And that's one of the challenges of having financial success is as you make more money and as your credit score goes up, you get more temptations come your way. You have to manage more successfully. And I know for me personally, credit score is important when you go to buy a house. The pricing of the loan is going to be dependent on, maybe you can qualify for the loan, but it's going to cost you thousands more if your credit score isn't as it should be. I'll give you a short example. My wife and I were offering on an investment property in Florida. And I looked and found a great property. Called the agent, made the offer. I've been pre-approved with a lender. And the lender called me back and said, "Hey, can you buy the property without your wife?" I said, "Well, I can do a lot of things. I don't know that I want to. You go tell her." But what's the problem? Well, it turned out that about 8 years ago, she had some medical expenses that were probably covered by insurance, I think. But we had a little dispute with them back then, and we resolved it 8 years ago. But they had turned it to collection, and the collection company they took it off my credit report, but not my wife's. So while my credit score was top notch, hers was like 660 or something because this large collection account. And of course, we had to go back and submit the paperwork and get it removed from her credit and got her score raised back up again. But the point is, we weren't in a have-to situation. I could buy it without her, because I qualify without her. And theoretically, she'd be okay with that, though I actually never talked to her about it because I don't know what the options were. And we didn't get the property because by the time we got things squared away, the seller changed his mind. My point is, you want to check ahead of time and have your credit score up to date and ready to go, especially if you're buying like a one-time your personal residence and you've been shopping for a house for a long time. If the house that you want becomes ready, you want to check for it ahead of time, right? So how do you do that? So Patricia, how do you work with buyers that you work with and get them pre-approved and get the credit score checked before they start buying property?
Sure. So I basically sit down with my clients once they let me know that they're looking to buy a house. And I want to make sure that they're pre-qualified to buy the house that is within their parameters as far as their income and their debt and what they can afford. So I will have them fill out a loan application and collect all of their financials, like their tax statements from the last year or two, a couple of months of pay stubs and bank statements. That's if you're a W-2 earner. If you're if you're a business owner, then you need a profit and loss statement and taxes as well. So I have them apply with my lender and go through that process. And for that same reason, because even if they're not if they're thinking they're going to want to buy a house in the next, let's say 6 months, and they think, well, we don't want to get our credit check now because we don't want to get dinged a few points, I still encourage them to have their credit checked ahead of time because something like that might come up, such as
Right.
example that you just provided us with. The same thing happened to me when I applied for a job at a company years ago. They did a background check and I didn't even know my license was suspended, my driver's license.
Oops.
I had a ticket, right? I had a ticket and it had blown up to $700. I never even received anything in the mail. So things like that happen where, you know, you're completely unaware and here you are ready to move forward, but you might have something hindering on your credit that could be an obstacle for you. So the moment that you think I think I want to buy a house or I'm ready to start buying a house, I encourage everyone to start saving money at that moment. And also, have your credit checked because you want to make sure that you are ready to make an offer if you do find a house that is suitable for you and your family and your living situation. And you want to be ready to go. If there's any credit issues, or challenges that you might need to work on, then you have time to get those items repaired, work with the, creditors, whether you're going to have to write a letter or whatever the case may be to get that squared away. And that way you're prepared to start shopping for a home. And then you know what purchase price you qualify for, right? Because that's another factor is you might be looking for a house that costs $600,000-700,000 and maybe you qualify for 500. So those are things that I encourage my clients to get ahead of the game as soon as possible. So that way they're, being prepared is the most important thing.
Yep. Yeah, there's nothing like getting lucky when you're prepared and ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to the first house I bought. My wife and I were first married, and I came across a real estate agent. And I had told her that we were looking to buy a house. And she recommended a lender, and I got pre-approved with her lender. And she called me a couple of weeks later and said, "Hey, you guys really ready to go?" And I said, "Yeah, we're ready to buy a house." And she said, "Well, it turns out I have this great deal. My buyer of a house has to sell their house. But we need somebody who can step right in and apply and who's pre-approved and ready to go." And we jumped right in. We bought the property. This was in Diamond Bar. This was a long time ago, 1980, I guess 7. We were married in 86, so this is 87. And we bought that property and we sold it a year later for $100,000 profit. Because it was like this past few years where it's been real hot.
Mm-hmm.
Either pick of buyers, but she wanted somebody in there she knew would close. And she knew I was pre-approved with her lender, ready to go. And so, luck comes to those who are prepared for it. And really important to plan ahead and get prepared. It's kind of a backwards thing. People get excited by a house and they see when they want. But if you're excited and you haven't started, you're not going to be able to get it. You're just going to teach yourself.
Right.
Okay. So here's a great question from Kevin. He says he's finding that, Kevin, do you want to unmute and say it, or do you want me to go ahead and read the question for you? I'll go ahead and do it. Okay, good. So he says that Credit Karma and Sesame are completely off their assessments. The scores are very different from what the credit bureaus are reporting to the mortgage company. Anyway, know for certain what the score is. Great question. So one of the things you always have to look at is what the business that you're working with, how they get paid. There's a saying in business that if you're not paying for the product, then you are the product. What does that mean? If you don't pay for Credit Karma, then they're going to give you for free information and then sell you to various other people who want to buy your data and information. And that can be good or it can be bad. And for a lot of people, it's a lot of sales calls and things they don't want. The term credit score, there's different companies that have different versions. The most popularly known is FICO score, Fair Isaac Credit. And so there's different providers and they have different scores, but each one has different scores for different uses. There's a credit score for buying cars. There's a credit score for insurance. There's a credit score for credit cards. There's a credit score for mortgages. Because each of those businesses buy the data formulated in a way that helps them make an automated decision. So credit card companies, they just care if you're going to pay your credit cards. They don't care about the mortgage. Mortgage lenders care if you're going to pay the mortgage. And so obviously they look at different things. And I don't know all the intricacies of the differences, but obviously and a car is a different experience as well. And there are people who have houses that are late payers on credit cards and can't get good credit cards, but they have great mortgage histories with a lot of equity. So to my experience, these free services are not worth your time. They're not even worth being free. The answer to your question is, if you're going to buy a house, you need to pick a lender that works with your realtor, that they work together as a team. And any reputable lender will run your credit for free. And then now you have in the file the credit score you need, and it can be either fixed and improved if necessary, or now you know the number, or they know the number, and they'll price it accordingly. Now, I started in the business as a mortgage lender, and I can tell you, I also would coach my buyers and say, listen, any changes in your credit between now and when we formally apply for your home loan, or before we close, can affect your score and your mortgage. So don't open any new credit cards after that. Don't go shopping for cars. Don't go buying major items on your credit, because it can affect negatively what you do. And you may have to write explanation letters and document that you didn't open accounts at different places. But the only credit score that matters is the one the mortgage lender uses. And so I would urge you, Kevin, I'm not sure, you may have told me where you are geographically, but I work with lenders who work across the country. I've worked with lousy lenders, and I work with good ones every day. I'm a listing agent. And so whenever people make offers on properties, I always interview the lenders as part of my service to my sellers. And I also have lenders I work with, and Patricia does too. And we work together on that. We share notes on who's good and who's bad, who's naughty and who's nice. So call Patricia or call me if you're looking for a lender, but make sure there's something to work with your realtor, because in my book, that's a team. We want a lender, not only it's going to get you a good mortgage rate, but also is going to help you get the house. What does that mean? They're going to send a pre-approval letter to the listing agent. They're going to call the listing agent. I'm not going to accept an offer until I've talked to the loan officer. And there's nothing worse than talking to somebody like at Rocket Mortgage who can't answer basic questions about the buyer. Or you read the document and it says this does not apply to somebody who's self-employed. Right now I know the document is really meaningless. So definitely who you work with is important. And just today I had a customer of mine who I had referred him to somebody, and that guy quoted him 3.9% interest rate, and somebody else quoted him locked in at 2.95. And I said, David, there's no way that guy's giving you today 2.95. That was a good rate, a few months ago. But he's lying to you just to get your loan, and he's going to give you the real news once you're in escrow. So I don't know, Patricia, what do you want to add on credit scores and the confusion about different companies?
Yeah, I think, just going back to what you said, applying with the lender first rather than getting information from different sources online, because there's hundreds of sources online. But if your main goal is to get pre-qualified for a home loan, then I suggest, as Bill said, teaming up with a realtor, because we do work as a team with the lender. And, in today's market, there's a lot of online services. So we do want to have, as realtors, communication with the lenders so that we can make sure that we're keeping track of the transaction from start to funding, basically to the end of your transaction. And with these online lending companies, it's really hard to get them on the phone. And so you want to make sure that you are able to reach your lender. You can talk to them when you need to. If you're able to access your lender, then so will your realtor. If you're having trouble getting a call back or talking to somebody live on the phone, then that's going to be a problem, because eventually you are going to be in escrow. And once you're in escrow, the clock starts ticking and it's all about performing. So you want to make sure that everyone on your team is easily accessible.
Kevin asked another great follow-up question. And again, if you want to unmute, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I can just read the question. This is a great question. I should pay you for being a script writer here, Kevin. You served me some softballs here. How do you know you're getting a fair deal unless you shop at least a few lenders? And that at face value makes sense, right? Before you buy something. So here's the key. With a mortgage, you're not buying it until you're signing loan documents and closing escrow. Until then, they're working for free. right? And so I did a video a week or two ago on how literally there were articles on CNN saying rates are at 4%, and there's advertisements from Lending Tree with lenders saying rates dropped, lock in 1.95. And it's stupid because there's no way you're going to get 1.95. There's nobody offering that rate. The mortgage rates are a lot like buying stock. You know, you can't get a cheaper Apple stock at Vanguard versus TD Ameritrade versus Bank of America Securities. The stock price is the stock price. The mortgages, for the most part, you go to mortgagedailynews.com, the rates are the rates. And the lenders are all selling to that same market, and they charge about 1% origination fee at most. They vary a little bit. So what do? So here's what I tell customers. The lender you start with, his job is to get you the house. He better be competitive enough to keep you once you're accepted. That's when you shop. Because now you have a house, right? And you're going to buy 123 Main Street. You know you're ready to close in whatever it is, 30, 45, 60 days. You can lock the rate with him. And he'll tell you, today I can lock your rate at 4% in writing. Great. Now you shop. And if somebody can beat 4% and close the deal and verify that's the rate in writing, that's when you might consider changing. Here's the problem. There are lenders who aren't reputable. I work with companies, and I also have customers who work with ghost companies. The reason why many lenders are anonymous online is because they like the ability to disappear when they can't deliver on results. The lenders I work with, you know, I know them, I've met them, I talk to them, we've done deals together. But again, the time to shop is once the lender you've selected and we've worked with together has helped you get the house, that guy has to be competitive to stay in business, or else every buyer he ever worked with, he would help him get a house, lock in the loan, and they would just change lenders on him. And so I can tell you, the ones I work with, sometimes they have to sharpen their pencil and make the deal work. But that's why they work with us.
This is great advice. I never even thought about that. And like many people, I don't like to switch. Old faithful, I want to stick around. You know, I'm empathic. I want to treat people right. But that is really good advice. This is a very difficult environment to do that, because I swear every time I call them, oh man, rates are up again. You know, rates are up again. Oh man, we're just getting slammed. Everybody's rushing to the finish line. So everybody seems buried right now. I've got 3 or 4 applications in right now, one for a house here in Southern California, another one for a rental property out of state. And nobody seems to be doing anything fast. Everybody just seems to be buried. Or maybe my credit score's so low they're not interested. But I mean, I'm a definite candidate. You know, I'm 700 or 690 FICO. You know, and I own the home free and clear, and you'd think, you know, that I'd be a good target. But I'm also finding out how expensive it is to do a cash out refi. If you don't live in it and it's a rental and you're pulling money out of it, man, get ready to pay. I mean, they're quoting me 2 points and 4 and what is it? 4.625. And honestly, it's not that much better than loans I got 10 years ago.
Well, a lot to unpack there, but you're right. Cash out refis are very expensive. That's why, generally speaking, you know, for rental properties, you know, you refinance to lower your payment. You might refinance to pay off a hard money loan or pull back a chunk of money initially when you buy it, when you buy it, you know, construction money or whatever. But it's an expensive way to get money. That's why people typically will trade up a house, because rather than borrow at 4.65, you can buy a new house at 4%. Just a difference in the rate, all things equal. And then if you have a lot of equity, you're trading to a property that has, you know, less equity, but you're leveraging your money up a little better that way. So that's why typically investors are rebalancing their portfolio regularly over time. And the way they do that is to sell the property and pull the cash out that way. And then if you've, of course, pulling cash out, you can avoid taxes until you sell it, but then you roll over those profits. But you're right. So
I'm really glad you mentioned that. One thing I'm struggling with right now is try to come up with a spreadsheet or calculator that will help me play out the scenarios. You know, you buy, you remodel, you rent, you refinance, and you repeat, right? The Burr method. Mm-hmm. So if I just keep trying to do that and I pay a little extra money on the refis because I'm, you know, pulling money out of places, versus selling and paying the capital gains tax and running with the money, or exchanging, okay, if you 1031 it. And so I get paralyzed trying to make decisions because I don't feel equipped with a spreadsheet or a tool to help me make these decisions.
Right.
How does an investor approach that?
Kevin, where are you located again?
Well, I live in Newport Beach.
Okay.
The properties are out of state in Washington State.
You definitely should get an accountant that's familiar with real estate that can help you recalculate these things, because there's different tax strategies and implications. And the way you run properties, if you're buying a property and doing improvements, you should get some tax deductions in that year that offset the other property. And so you want to balance out your losses with your gains. And so this is where I think having an accountant who really works with you, knows real estate, will be a benefit to you rather than just doing it yourself and reinventing it, for one. And I think working with lenders, there's no reason to work with multiple lenders, because one guy who has your file, it's easy for him to redo it. And there are many lenders now who are licensed in most states, if not all 50 states. So again, I'd be glad to make a reduction with somebody who can do that for you. But if you're buying properties regularly, you need somebody who has the last package and restarts the new one and speeds the process up for you. There's no reason why, if you're doing both loans, you can't do them in the same place, and if nothing else, get better service as a result. Obviously, you're more business with the same person. But it just sounds to me, everybody's busy in this business right now. Everybody's working hard, understaffed. Every company has fewer people than they should. They're all scared about the rates have gone up. They don't want to hire new staff because they have to lay people off. Every escrow is behind. Every title is behind. Every lender almost is behind. When you find somebody who's able to give you attention and service, hold on to them. They're valuable to you. And try to make the money on the purchase rather than grind out an extra 8% on the rate. I think that's where maybe you're missing out a little bit on some of the service options. I did, I said, this property in Florida, the same company I use, this guy insisted I had to use his lender to get the listing. And that guy just took an extra 3 days to put the package together, where my other guy would have had it done right away. And I argued with him, and I said, well, look, Bill, don't be so arrogant. This is Florida. It's a different state. I'm trying to develop some relationships there. And in the end, I'm like, you're an idiot. Why did I think you weren't an idiot? So we lost the deal. But the great question. I do think that everybody is busy. That doesn't mean that you should follow up. It doesn't mean that you should expect bad service or settle for it. And I also say this, Kevin, you're worried about changing lenders. That's my job to be that bad guy. My job, if I refer you to my lender, I use primarily Michael Most at Guarantee Rate, one of the top lenders in the industry. When I refer somebody to him, I'm on the line for that. I refer to my best clients over the last, 3 years since I've known him, 3 or 4 years. If you have to change lenders because he's not competitive, I'm the one that calls Michael and say, hey, the reason why Kevin left is because he got a better deal at so-and-so. And that's on him. That's my job to do that for you. It's to be the bad guy.
So you're a broker, Bill?
I'm a real estate broker. I'm not a lender.
Yeah, real estate broker. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I refer somebody to a mortgage lender, I'm on the hook for that. And if they don't service you properly, then it's my problem, not yours. Like I said, my friend called me back to say I had referred him to Michael Most, and he found another lender, promised him 2.95%. I said, you're never going to get it. It's never going to happen. Let's bet dinner, me, you, and our wives. There's no way you're going to get anything under 3.5% from this guy. It's never going to happen unless rates decline again. If rates go back down, different story. Why do I say it? Because I know, Michael, there's no way, there's no possible way you're going to get that rate. That's like saying you're going to buy Apple stock for less than everybody else is. You just can't do that. No.
If I go to Google,
I'm sorry?
If I go to Google, and believe me, I tried to do this the other night, and just to see if there's a good industry standard, rough credit score, and I'm doing cash out, I'm doing a refi, and maybe geography has something to do with it too. What should be rate and points? And I have a heck of a time trying to find any kind of normalcy or any data on a typical, typical refi where it should be. How does somebody know if they're getting a fair shake rather than, because these applications are long. If you own a couple different properties,
yeah,
mortgagenewsdaily.com. Okay.
Yeah. Mortgage News Daily has the actual Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac rates. That's like the stock market. If you said to me, I want to buy Apple stock, right? You would just go into, my company is EXPI is our company stock. Well, So today's trading just under $29.44. If I call the broker and say, well, I'll get you that stock for $28, that's crazy. You can't get it for that. Now you could charge me $10 for commission, $50, $100, $200, $1,000, but the price is the price. And then mortgages is pretty much the price. Now, some lenders will quote you the owner occupied rate when you're really cash out non-owner occupied. There's a higher price for cash out. There's a higher price yet for non-owner occupied properties. And so some lenders will quote you the right price, some will misquote you the wrong price. Some will tell you the price they could actually deliver that minute and lock. Others will lie about it because they're trying to get your business. But the rate's the rate. They're all selling the loan to the same place. Now, there's a difference if you're talking about construction loans or fix and flip financing or other more exotic products. But for basic purchase or basic refinance, the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac loans are the best priced, and they don't vary by that much.
I'm on the site right now. I can see 30-year fixed rate at 4.1%.
Nobody's below that.
It is below that?
Nobody's below that.
Nobody's below that. Okay.
Nobody's below that. I wouldn't believe anybody. I'll bet money, my charity to your charity, $100. There's no way you can get a loan below that today. Now you could get on a 15-year fixed. You can get on a different type of product, an adjustable. But for 30-year fixed rate mortgage, you're not going to get it for less.
Who's crazy enough to do an adjustable rate mortgage right now? But I get it if you're desperate and you need it.
Well, there's 5-year. There are people who look for you, for example, as an investor, you might get a 5-year adjustable with the idea that 5 years from now it should appreciate enough that you're going to sell it and redeploy your equity elsewhere and re-leverage it. So there's a product there for the right person, but it's not like the old days where people were being tricked into those and lost their house as a result.
Thank you. I got that site on my favorites now.
Good. Yeah, it's a good one. I'm on that every single day. Anybody else have any questions? Feel free to put in the chat box or raise your hand or just unmute yourself and jump in family style. I'm glad to go for that as well. Patricia, anything you want to add as far as shopping for lenders or how competitive it is, or when you refer somebody to the lender you work with? I know you work with a couple good ones. Have you had a customer come back and complain and say they're not competitive or they're not taking care of me?
Not really. I mean, the lenders I work with are pretty responsive. You know, they answer the phone. You can get them on the line. They're also very patient and they explain the process and what the rate is and how they came up with, you know, basically their the rate, their credit, and just explaining the pre-approval itself, just so that my clients are educated on the process as well. So I think that's really important, is knowing how you qualified for that amount. You know, let's say you qualified for 600,000, why you qualified for that amount. And also just understanding what the terms of your loan are going to be. If you are going to get an adjustable rate, knowing if it's going to be fixed for 3 years, 5 years, knowing when it's going to adjust. So all those details are really important. The other thing I wanted to mention was that right now we're in tax season. So that means we're all looking forward to getting a nice refund. And so most people start spending it before it's even in the bank account, right? We start thinking about, you know, different things we can use that money for. And I've seen a lot of deals right now where you can start looking for a new patio set and maybe get it, you know, financed at a lower, you know, they're offering you some kind of incentive to get financing, 0% interest for the first 6 months or whatever the case may be. But if you are looking to, if your goal is to buy a home in the near future, maybe this year, I would suggest saving that money, not spending it on something that you can purchase later. You know, if you're looking at buying something like new succulents for your garden or a new patio set, those are things that can wait, and you can save that money that you're getting from your tax return to put towards your closing costs or your down payment. So be smart with your money and don't go open any new accounts right now, because we're entering the spring market and there's a lot of new shiny toys out there. So we just have to be mindful of that too.
Yeah, there's a great site I use to refer customers to, Remodeling Magazine. It's online. I think it's remodeling.com. And it shows you that, and this is for people who are contractors, to say to their customers how much money that you fix on your house will you get back. And oftentimes I have conversations with sellers every day who say, well, we want to recarpet paint and do a couple of things. I say, well, that's great, but just know that if it costs you $10,000, odds are you only get $8,000 back in a higher sales price. People want a higher price than the house is worth, but spending $10,000 and getting $8,000 back puts them further behind. And so Remodeling Magazine shows what the return is for various jobs, and almost without exception, other than cleanup, which is important, trash out, clean up, make it smell decent, livable, removing pet smells and such. There's nothing that will get you 100% of your investment back, unless, because as an investor, as a homeowner, you're paying retail. You go to Home Depot, you pay retail. A contractor is going to go and get a wholesale price, or he gets a discount. You're going to hire contractors. Contractors hire employees and make money on that. And they do volume jobs, and they can buy extra supplies and get volume discounts. And so for a customer, you're going to end up paying a full retail price to fix something and not get back the full value, as almost without exception. Now, when housing prices are going up, everybody, looks like a genius. But now that I think the market is slowing down a little bit, you have to be judicious with where you put your money. And so Patricia's right. Better save the cash. Having extra cash reserves is always a good thing for lenders. Okay, we covered a lot today about financing. Any last minute financing tips? Patricia or anybody else? Questions? I don't see any more questions. Anybody else? Anything else? Or Patricia, anything you want to add?
Yes, I just wanted to add that when you are applying for a loan and you're going to discuss that with your realtor, you could get 2 different loan approvals from 2 different lenders. So don't feel like you're just stuck with one lender and what they say is basically the final word. I do encourage my clients to get 2 approvals, and myself or Bill, we can refer you to some pretty solid lenders that can provide you with 2 different loan approvals, because it's not just the interest rate, but you also want to see what your closing costs are going to be. Some lenders will charge you a higher processing fee, underwriting fee, possibly origination fee. And so you want to know what those fees are going to be as well, aside from your interest rate.
Definitely.
I have a question that's killing us. We're in a luxury apartment complex. We love it. Lots of amenities. And we go to gym, trainers, killer pool. We're looking at houses, and it's like our payment would instantly double just to own any real estate to live in. And we're trying to figure out, okay, is there a spreadsheet or something that we can column A? And here's a lifestyle, no capital appreciation on the real estate we're renting. Column B, we spend $1 million on a house. Here's the write-off that you get. You might take a hit on amenities, but trying to figure out the true cost of ownership of a home versus apartment living. Do you know of either a good site or a good way to work through that? Because I'm kind of a bean counter when it comes to that. I really want to know, how much am I going to save on my taxes, and how much to accrue towards the housing expense as a result of that. If I'm going to save 20 grand on my taxes, do I spend another 20 grand on a house, just because I can write off the interest? You know what I'm saying? All those kind of calculations.
I think you have to create your own, because there's a rent versus buy. There's different calculators will calculate the basic costs. But what you're hitting on is the difference in amenities. One of the things, it also works the other way. I talk to people who have a small apartment and they look to buy their first house, and it costs more for the house. Well, the house is bigger, perhaps in some cases. House has a yard, maybe a front and a backyard in some cases. There's the pride of ownership. There's the fact that there's tax advantages. There's also declining principal balances. So it's to compare apples to oranges and then make adjustments. That's depending on your own personal choice. And then people say, well, I can live closer here, and now there's a cost of commuting or parking, whatever there is. I have a nice size house, bigger than I need. Our daughter's grown up and out of the house, but I converted the bedroom into a full-time office. So instead of paying rent, I have a whole bedroom, and I have a whole nother, what was our playroom for storage and for meeting with clients. So instead of spending maybe $1,000 a month on rent, I'm paying I'm saving $1,000 and have a office that works for me. So those are personal decisions you have to get to. I don't really know the particular spreadsheet that will get into the quality of life issues. You have to get personal.
Well, I think that's what I'm looking for is something that'll do the math for me and show me like, okay, here's the true cost of ownership of the house, given the tax savings, writing off
Right.
your interest, given the capital appreciation of a market. Like, it's going to be difficult to predict another 20% year gain, year over year gain, but let's just say we put in 3 to 5%. That's pretty darn conservative.
Right.
For Southern California, you might even see 7. So we kind of add in these metrics, and then I get to look at, okay, I rent for 3,000, I buy for 6, but my true cost is 4,500. Is it worth $1,500 to gain a bedroom and have a yard to mow? I'm just looking for an edge to try to
Yeah.
figure that
So
out.
again, I don't really know a great one. The best I've seen is NerdWallet. I like the website a lot for that kind of stuff. That might get you close, but I think it sounds to me like you're going to need to create your own spreadsheet with your own factors, and I don't think there's going to be any way to really compare apples to oranges and get to those bottom line distinctions the way you talk about. I mean, everybody's tax situation is different. States are different. State taxes. If your profits are in a different state, that would be different. I have some loss carry forwards, so for me, taxes aren't an issue right now. I'm trying to use that up. So it just really depends. It's a little too personal. But NerdWallet has a rent versus buy that I think that does a decent job and tries to project increased rent, prices. Because if you're renting, you're subject to rent, increases, and rent's increasing tremendously around the country right now. So it might be a great decision today, but you might be facing, 10%, depending on what market you're in, 10% increases, not in California because of our laws, but if they're not raising the rents, they're also not going to improve the quality of the properties. That's the flip side. So, okay, I think it was kind of fun to nerd out a little bit on this stuff. Carolina, any questions? I see you there. Nice to have you back again. Do you have any questions we can help you with?
No, this is really informative. I've just been diving into this remodeling website. I'm scrolling up and down and looking at things because
Really good.
I've been living at my home for 18 years now. And this home was supposed to be my quote unquote starter home, right? I was going to be here for a few years, and of course it just didn't work out that way. So 18 years later, I'm, sitting here with an aging home. It's starting to age. When I walked in, when I purchased it, it was turnkey, but now there's things that are, need upgrading and stuff like this. And I'm trying to do this because, I'm working from home, so I'm here a lot more. So I'm starting to see more of the deficiencies and the paint chipping off and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I want to do it in a smart way so that I don't want to overspend. I just want to make some really modest, upgrades just so it looks, feels better. But I don't want to spend a ton of money either, particularly, here I'm thinking, wow, I'm going to make all these changes and the value is just going to go way up. I mean, I have a good amount of equity, thank goodness, after 18 years, but I just don't want to spend too much. I'm trying to be very careful about my finances because, I'm thinking about retirement, for looking forward and just really saving my money but also using it wisely, right? Investing into this home so that if I decide to sell at some point that those upgrades will help me to increase the value.
I don't think there's much you can do that's going to add value as an investment. I think you can invest, enhance your enjoyment, maybe lengthen the time you stay in the house that works for you. But you're not going to get 100% of your money back.
Right.
Back when we did foreclosures, REO properties, real estate owned by banks, I can't tell you how many houses either were remodeled tremendously or got stuck halfway through because they spent money and decided to do something else and something else and something else. And there's something about spending money that I think we have to keep our desires in control within the budget. That's not to say you can't have a really nice house. Just make sure it's in your budget. And the purpose, I think we convince ourselves, oh, it's a great investment. It's not an investment. People, you'll see people say, this particular thing I bought that I want to use. I can justify anything, right? I buy something, well, it's a collectible. It's going to go up in value. Well, I can't pay the bills with it. And it goes up in value until it doesn't go up in value. With the house, again, you're going to spend $20,000. It's going to help your value by, if you're lucky, $16,000. Now, if you get $4,000 of enjoyment over the next 5-10 years, that's definitely worth it. You're entitled to it if you can afford it. But don't kid yourself into thinking it's an investment. It minimizes the expense or the cost, but definitely is going to cost you money to do anything. So do what you can afford and that is reasonable for you to enjoy. And the next buyer may not like what you like. You might have those beautiful ideas of everything's all white or everything's all black or everything's all red. And the next buyer had their dream house is blue and they love your house. They want to pay top dollar, but they're going to rip it all out. And they're going to, in their mind, pay a little bit less because they have to rip all that stuff out. And I see that all the time.
Yes, I saw that happen to my neighbor's house. They fixed it up, sold it. Someone came in, bought it, undid everything. I saw them carrying out the toilets that were just installed like a month earlier or 2 months earlier. And,
Classic.
undoing it all. And I thought, wow, what a shame. I bet if they were here watching this, they'd be really upset that they spent all that money to do that. And then someone came in, made a bunch of changes and sold it for like $200,000 more. So,
And again, you have to be careful when you get information. If you watch for free, HGTV, and you see these people fixing stuff and flipping houses and spending a lot of money, who's paying for that show? Right? Well, the sponsors are these high-end, plumbing fixture companies and high-end heating and high-end cooking ware and ovens, stoves. That's all great. But the people who really like that stuff, they want it brand new. So you're going to use it for a year or two. Now it's a high-end refrigerator, but it's a used refrigerator 2 years from now. And you don't have the latest technology. You have the latest today, but not the latest 2 years from now.
mhm.
So I think that's it's very seductive to watch TV or watch online, read articles, CNN and Fox News and all that about real estate. And I comment this in my email all the time every week that they're not in the business of educating consumers. They're in the business of selling attention to their advertisers. And just be careful what you get. But generally speaking, you're not going to make. And I'm selling you. I'll just be upfront. I love to sell you a house. I'd love to sell your house. Patricia is on my team. She works with buyers. She'd love to sell you a new house. Other than that, I don't have anything else to sell you. I'm not going to sell you cookware or refrigerator or paint or tile or anything. Okay.
Thank you for the reality. As I'm reading through this remodeling website, it's a reality check. So thank you.
Yeah, that's for people in the business. That's for remodelers, contractors and such. So it's real information. And Mortgage News Daily is really for people in the industry as well. That's why the market, I think it's just real market information. Okay, look, I think we had a great, robust call. Thank you so much. So next week, we're going to we have a 7-part series. This is number 6. So number 7 is really your roadmap process. If you're looking to buy a house, we'll talk about what the steps you should take and strategize and walk you through the process from kind of beginning to end and what that looks like. Patricia was a escrow officer, so she's been at the front end as an agent and the back end as a escrow officer and everything in between. And I have as well as a lender. So we'll talk about that. We do this every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And then we live stream it on YouTube and Facebook, and then you can go on the YouTube channel afterwards and see it. Patricia, somebody want to get in touch with you, how would they get in touch with you?
So I can be reached on my cell phone at 323-365-9909.
One more time.
323-365-9909.
Great. And I'm Bill Gross, and you can see me on social medias at Bill Gross EXP, so youtube.com/Bill Gross EXP. And look forward to seeing you guys next week.